To respond to comments on non-agendized matters at the time such comments are made. Do we have a report tonight? Okay, thank you. Item 8, report from MTA President. Report from the Menifee Teachers Association President. At this time, the Menifee Teachers Association President may report on items for information purposes only, with a maximum time of 10 minutes. The Ralph M. Brown Act limits the governing board and staff's ability to respond to comments on non-agendized matters at the time such comments are made. Do we have a report tonight? Oh, yeah.
Hello. It's always great to be here. Thanks for having me and letting me speak again. We had the opportunity last week. We had a special board meeting, and some of us did come and got to be part of the very honest conversations that occurred. But mostly what we took out of it was a sense of optimism, and it feels like, especially after hearing the beautiful presentation from South Shore, about how we're all on the same page and we all want what's best for kids, and that is what we heard, and we look very much forward to working with you and helping you in any way to achieve the goals that you set forth for yourself. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Item 9, public opportunity. This is the time for members of the public to address the board about items which are not on the agenda. Agenda items may be discussed at the time they are considered by the board. The Ralph M. Brown Act limits the governing board and staff's ability to respond to comments on non-agendized matters at the time such comments are made. Public comments are limited to 3 minutes per speaker and 20 minutes per topic. Those wishing to address the governing board should step up to the microphone. Preference shall be given to those persons who have submitted a presentation from the public forum to the secretary. Keisha Montfleury.
Hello everyone. I know I only have 3 minutes, so I'm going to read the speech that I wrote because I will go over. So, first of all, thank you for having me. My name is Keisha Montfleury. And again, thank you for making the time for me to speak. I'm a parent of 3 children. 2 of them are girls that go to the Menifee Unified schools in the school district. And I'm also a member of our district African American Parent Advisory Board. But I'm here just to share a few things with you guys. One of them is that I recently got a chance to visit the Excellence Through Equity Conference that was placed a couple weeks ago. I was invited by Dr. Husing, and I just wanted to make sure that I take the time to thank Dr. Husing, thank Dr. Kennedy, and I see a few others that were at the table. I just want to thank you guys for the opportunity and for the hospitality that you guys gave me while I was there. But attending that conference confirmed my passion and my purpose, which is supporting the whole child and making sure that their voices are being heard. So what we did, we got a chance to hear from the students who spoke their truth. And even though they are being proactive and seeking the support that they're needing, their main message and foundation of what they are needing is a relationship with their teachers, their peers, and their self. And just not any relationship, though. We want to make sure that we're having healthy relationships. And this is where I come in. So not only am I coming from a parent's perspective, but I'm also coming from the perspective of as an educator. I do have my bachelor's degree in child and human development, and I have 15 years experience in the child development field. But I am also a local business owner of a company named Handiwork, whose purpose is to encourage our school-age girls to practice having a healthy self-esteem so they will not engage in negative behaviors such as self-harm and bullying. One thing for me is that's something that is near and dear to me because I participated in healthy relationships due to having a low self-esteem. So I want to make sure that I'm giving back and pouring into our youth in that way. So I have been graced with the opportunity to have impacted a little over 145 girls in our community through hosting private workshops, connecting with the city of Menifee to offer these programs to our residents, through our local charter schools, and through the Boys and Girls Club of Menifee and the local after-school programs. And I also have had the opportunity to share my program in hopes of providing it in various campuses, such as her chorus, so Mr. Mobley, I think he's here. Oh, Mr. Mobley, Ms. Donahoe of Tooele, Mr. Rocha of Cali Kirkpatrick, and Mrs. Noriega of Oak Meadows. And I want to make sure that I make the time to thank you for just, hearing my vision. But the programs that I do host are called Young Girl Investment Club. They're for our elementary school girls, and the Design Your Confidence, which are for our middle and high school girls. And what these workshops are, they're specifically designed to support our girls as a whole in providing her with the tools, knowledge, and strategies to thrive as individuals. I know that the district has taken the initiative to put Second Step into the school schedule, and I truly do appreciate that. But I would like to take a moment to challenge the district in providing more opportunity for social emotional practice on school sites. So I think that it will be a great investment for our youth, and I already have the program laid out, which entails a schedule, ways to document the progress, and a team who is passionate and passionate about the purpose also. And also taking a part in our LCAP stakeholder meeting at the end of the school year. Young Girl Investment Club and Design Your Confidence falls right into one of our LCAP goals, which is providing support services to meet the social emotional learning needs of our students and promote a better achievement and a positive school climate. So I just wanted to take the time. I've been making my rounds to the schools. I'm sorry, making my rounds to the schools, but I just wanted to propose it to the district to come in and host these workshops for, I know they're girls, but I am willing to seek out someone who's passionate about for the boys also, so it can be a balance. But I just wanted to propose that program to the district.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 10, action session, approval of agenda. It is recommended the governing board approve the agenda as presented. Do I have a motion?
I'll give you a motion.
Mr. O'Donnell, and a second.
I'll second it.
Mrs. Johansson. Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Are there any opposed? Motion carries. Sorry to go out of order. I forgot to excuse board member Root tonight. He is a firefighter, and there are times where his schedule just will not allow him to be here. And believe me, he works at his schedule very hard and sacrifices quite a bit to be here when he can. So we appreciate all of his efforts and ask for him to, he's not just ditching out on us, right? He's out there working. All right, item 11, action session, business and financial. 11A, appoint new members of Citizens Bond Oversight Committee for Measure Q. It is recommended the governing board appoint the following members to, do I need to go back?
Sorry, yeah, approve the consent agenda.
Oh, I'm so sorry, thank you. Approval of consent agenda. It is recommended the governing board approve all items in the consent agenda as presented. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Mr. Jenkins, and a second?
I'll second it.
Mrs. Johansson, questions about the consent agenda? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Motion carries. All right, item 11, action session, business and financial. 11A, appoint new members of Citizens Bond Oversight Committee for Measure Q. It is recommended that the governing board appoint the following members to the district Citizens Bond Oversight Committee for Measure Q. Jeremy Buckley, parent guardian of a child enrolled in the Menifee Union School District, and Debbie Mannion, citizen at large. I'm going to go down here to the summary abstract because we already had this committee. Due to 2 resignations of committee members representing a parent guardian and a child enrolled in the district, and a citizen at large, the district has 2 vacancies that need to be filled. All right, do we have any questions or comments about this? Oh, yeah, we need a motion first. Do we have a motion?
Give you a motion.
Thank you, Mr. O'Donnell, and a second.
I'll second it.
Mrs. Johansson, now do we have questions or comments? That's why everybody's looking at me. All right. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Motion carries. Yeah, that's a good idea. Let's go ahead and introduce them. If you could both stand up for us, Mr. Buckley, Mrs. Mannion. Mr. Buckley over here, Ms. Mannion over here. Thank you very much. We do greatly appreciate volunteering of your time for this and helping us out with this. All right, 11B, approved contract with Bay Alarm Company for the installation and monitoring security system for interim housing during the Menifee Valley Middle School reconstruction project. It is the recommendation of the superintendent and staff that the governing board approve the attached agreement with Bay Alarm Company for installation and monitoring security system for the Menifee Valley Middle School reconstruction project in the amount of $36,000 and a monthly monitoring service charge of $330. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Mr. Jenkins, and a second.
I'll give you a second.
Mr. O'Donnell, questions?
When do we expect to see this end? I know it's only, once we pay the $36,000, it's only $330 a month, but when do you expect it to end? When the project, May?
No, so we anticipate interim housing to last approximately a year. We're hoping it won't last the full 12 months, but that's the time that we have scheduled.
Any other questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Motion carries. Item 11C, ratify independent contractor agreement with STAT CPR Solutions, Inc. for the 2019-20 school year. It is the recommendation of the superintendent and staff that the governing board ratify the independent contractor agreement with STAT CPR Solutions, Inc. in the not to exceed amount of $1,000 for the 2019-20 school year. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Mr. Jenkins, and a second.
I'll second it.
Mrs. Johansson, questions about this, Mr. Jenkins?
Who does this cover? It's a great thing, but who does this all cover?
So actually ties in beautifully with our presentation. In order to have AEDs, you have to have 3 people on campus at all times certified to be able to work the AEDs. So the CPR, first aid, and AED training was completed on September 3rd with all of our middle school PE teachers. So when you become a teacher and you are first hired, you have to have your first aid and CPR, but there's not a requirement to continue them. So that is going to be a new piece of what our teachers will be offered because of the professional development day. So this trained all of the middle school PE teachers, or short answer.
That training, and then we are looking at training all of our teachers to be a part of that, correct? Not in the AEDs necessarily, but in CPR, first aid, or is that what I'm getting from that, or am I making that up?
My commitment is to maintain that the 3 people on every campus are certified.
We have to do that, okay. Is there any possibility we could open it up to staff that wanted to be CPR certified? Not necessarily AED, because I know it's more expensive, but.
It's part of the training now, but I will take that under advisement.
Any other questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Motion carries. Item 11D, approved proposal from Suzette Lovely. It is the recommendation of the superintendent and staff that the governing board approve the attached proposal from Suzette Lovely to provide consultant services for the district in the not to exceed amount of $15,000. Do I have a motion?
Give you a motion.
Mr. O'Donnell, and a second.
I'll second it.
Mrs. Johansson, questions?
Have we used her in the past, or have we done this in the past, or what has this been done?
Okay, so I'll take that question as well. Actually, Dr. Lovely is one of my previous superintendents, and she retired from my last district and started her own consultant group to do this work with districts, to come in alongside boards and leadership groups across districts and build a cohesive vision and mission for the new era of our districts. Many times, district visions and missions used to be really long and people didn't know what they were. So she does the branding work with the district to find out what is really core to the belief and to narrow it down to something that everybody could relate to and be able to speak to and actually memorize, one sentence about what is it that we do. And I went through that myself when she was our superintendent. It was so well received by our board at that time that that's what she decided to do in her retirement. So when we talked about what resources were available to do this, I suggested her services, and she's been through many districts, both in Orange County and in San Diego County, to help boards and leadership teams with this kind of work.
Well, go ahead. Well, for a consultant fee, this really isn't expensive, to be honest with you, but I'm wondering, for developing a vision, it seems kind of pricey. And so I'm wondering how long is this going to be?
So it
Because
will.
the district can create a vision without spending $15,000.
I agree. I think that the time and money spent is building capacity among leadership teams. So 2 principals, a teacher from several different districts or several different sites, parents from a site. So it's the time to build that understanding and then to share back with the sites and then build consensus. So you don't want it to happen in a closet and then, oh, look at what we came up with. It's to build it out.
How much time is she going to give us, I guess?
I think it's 4 to 5 meetings, and she would come to a closed session as well. Maybe even a board meeting. It's 5 meetings. Sorry.
And it's the time period, right?
Yeah, so the time period is through May of 2020.
Starting as soon as, if we vote this in
It
through
says,
May.
So there would actually be a presentation to the board in the second meeting in October, where she will lay out what the plan would be. And then we'll start the process in January so that we would have a fresh start and then tie in all of our different stakeholder groups to be a part of this whole process. And it is pretty comprehensive. I've been a part of a couple of them and it is very comprehensive.
And I see the value, I see the need. I see the need. And in fact, we've even asked for such, right? So I don't want to seem like I'm fighting against it, but I guess I would, sticker shock, is that it? Mrs. Johansson?
That was some of mine. I am excited because our mission and vision, some of it just doesn't make sense. It's kind of, how old is it? I think I read that it was like 2007. But people from a long time ago when I worked here were on that, and who created that. The only question I had that you didn't already ask is, did she write the final, after she gets all the feedback from stakeholders, is she writing that final document?
Not in exclusion, though. It will definitely be with all of us, coaching us along. So yes, we will walk out with a final document, a vision, mission, student profile.
Yes.
I'd only say too, is if we're doing this, obviously we need it, but that it's a one-time deal and that we're actually learning something from it, taking it. There's so many times when people go through these things and companies go through these that then they put through all these mission statements and they don't change them. So again, something that's specific, measurable, defined, short is always good because then it doesn't leave a lot open. But that if we're going to do this, then that going forward, we don't need to do it again. We don't need to bring somebody else in from the outside. We may need to
Not for a
advise.
while, right? Until we needed to refine.
Well, I was hoping that we were able to be doing this, going through the process, that someone's taken notes or something along those lines so we know how this process is done, because I've found that internally, from experience, I guess you could say, is that a lot of times when it's done internally, it ends up better overall, that there may need to be a learning process of how to get it done, and then that we can carry that down the road and maybe even look at it maybe annually or something like that. Are we meeting these? Are we doing this? And to keep it refreshed, and so that way then going forward, we won't need to do this again. We can just say, we won't need to bring somebody from the outside. We can maintain it ourselves and look at it as a board, as a group, as parents, students, maybe even in staff, and whatever else we need to do. That's my only suggestion, my only ask to do this, and then something to consider.
Thanks.
All right. Yeah, I'm kind of, anyway, it just is more.
Is what?
It's just more than I was thinking,
Yeah.
but at the same time, for a consultant, I would imagine in the business world, the consultant for something like this would be much more than 15,000, but it still bothers me.
I can, from experience, I've been through so many of these I didn't care to mention, and that we ended up doing more on our own, but they're good to come through as long as, like, that's why I was saying, be a little more personal with it, is that as long as we are taking it and learning it. If you take it over a 10-year period, then it's only like $1,500 a month. I'm better with that, instead of saying 3 years from now we got to bring somebody else in at 40,000 or 15,000 again and do it again. So
Yeah, I get it, and I trust you.
Yep.
Just, it's just different than I thought. All right, so with that, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, item 11E, approve proposal from Moore Fence Company for safety fence at Tawila Elementary School, it is the recommendation of the superintendent staff that the governing board approve the attached proposal submitted by Moore Fence Company for the installation and modification of chain link fence at Tawila Elementary School in the amount of $14,496.29. Do I have a motion?
I'll motion.
Mr. Jenkins, and a second?
I'll second it.
Mrs. Johansson, I'm gonna go ahead and read the rationale. 2 areas are being addressed for safety. 223 feet of 4 feet chain link fence to provide a necessary barrier between the parking lot and pickup drop-off lane where parents have been allowing their children to walk into traffic, and the relocation of the gate and fence around the bike rack to allow students to use single entrance and exit for safe arrival and dismissal. So it definitely sounds like a safety issue. Could I get a little more explanation as to what's happening at the site where we meet?
Yeah, so if you can imagine our typical drop-off, we have a lane for drop-off, and then behind that we have parking. And so there are parents that are going back in the parking area and allowing their student dropping off, and allowing the student to walk across a very long drop-off area. And so we're going to fence that portion off.
Are there going to be openings every once in a while for the kids to get through, or?
There will be an opening and a crosswalk where it can be banned, yeah.
That's a great place.
Yeah.
For it.
Yeah.
All right.
And then like we said, the other piece is we noticed with, I would say it was an issue with the design of where the bike rack placement is, and so the bike rack placement is actually inside the fence. And so we have to change that so that students can have access to that and then go into the single point of entry within the school.
There's always those little things that you just don't foresee like that. Any other questions?
So they're moving the bike rack inside the fence then, right?
So it is currently inside the fence, but it doesn't have a door or a gate access that that the students have access to. They'd have to go in like a wide gate, and it just compromises the safety of the site. Right now they have access to the full site. And so we're going to fence off the bike rack so that it's its own specific area, so that the students can access the bike rack without compromising the entire safety of the school site, should somebody else want to access the bike rack.
And so are they going through, are they moving cement or anything like that to get these fenced in or along those lines? The reason I ask is that $260, I went in and calculated it, $260 a 4-foot section, that's pretty expensive.
I don't have the answer to that, Mr. Sellers.
Pouring into existing concrete.
You what? Sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Sellers, for coming to assist in answering these questions.
For the bike racks, they'll just be coring into the existing concrete. And then for some of the locations on the long fence, they will be cutting out concrete and pouring new footings. So it's all concrete currently, but they'll be cutting out some areas, and then some of it they'll just be simply coring into the concrete.
And
Makes any sense?
yeah, it did, no, it makes sense, I was making sure, and then we put the bids, I mean, we've had more than one person come and bid this to us, or?
So not this particular job, but within the school district, within our fencing, we have gone out for competitive pricing. And this is the vendor that we have been using within the school district based on that competitive price request at another point in time whenever we're doing fencing.
I mean, it's gotta be done, for safety reasons, I'm all behind it. From a cost perspective, I think we're not keeping them honest, to be honest with you, at $200 and some odd for a 4-foot section is pretty expensive. But I feel like maybe it's the scope of work that I'm not seeing the whole of, but that's a bit much for 4, but I mean, we gotta, I don't wanna miss it up because I've seen that be good for with the kids and everything else, it's necessary, but maybe next time we'll keep them honest, let them know they gotta rebid it or something.
All right, with that, all in favor say aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? Motion carries. Item 12, action session personnel, addition of noon supervisor classified position. It is recommended the governing board approve the addition of 1.5 hour noon supervisor classified position effective September 25th, 2019. I'll read the rationale based on 2018-19 initial enrollment numbers of 300 students. Tawila Elementary School was assigned a total of 4 noon supervisors. Since then, TES has increased enrollment numbers by over 100 students and is in need of one additional noon supervisor to ensure student safety during the 1.5 hour lunch coverage period. Do I have a motion?
I'll give you a motion.
Mr. O'Donnell in a second.
I'll second.
Mr. Jenkins, any questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Motion carries. Item 13, action session, administrative functions, acceptance of donations. Do we have a motion to accept these donations?
I'll give you a motion.
Mrs. Johansson in a second.
I'll second.
Mr. Jenkins, any questions, comments?
I'm gonna go eat them at Wells with all that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Motion carries. On behalf of the students and staff of the Menifee Union School District, the governing board accepts with gratitude the donations listed above.
Thank you.
Item 14, action session, educational services. Item 14A, public hearing regarding adoption of resolution 2020-48 for pupil textbook and instructional materials compliance for fiscal year 2019-20. It is recommended the governing board hold a public hearing prior to the adoption of resolution 2020-48 pupil textbook and instructional materials compliance for fiscal year 2019-20. Prior to the consideration of this motion, the board president will open the public hearing at 5:43. Is there anybody who is here to speak on this matter? With that being said, if I wait a few seconds, maybe we can close. Well, we're going to close it at 5:43. Do we have to have a motion?
Let's do it.
A minute, you got it. Did it hit?
Yes.
Okay, there we go. And close it at 5:44 p.m. Now we need a motion. Do I have a motion?
I'll give you a motion.
Thank you, Mrs. Johansson, and a second.
I'll give you a second.
Mr. O'Donnell, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Motion carries. Item 14B, adoption of resolution 2020-48 for pupil textbook and instructional materials compliance for fiscal year 2019-20. It is the recommendation of the superintendent and staff that the governing board adopt resolution 2020-48 pupil textbook and instructional materials compliance for fiscal year 2019-2020. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Mr. Jenkins, and a second. Did I get a second from anybody?
I'll give you a second.
Thank you. Mr. O'Donnell, questions or concerns about this item? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Motion carries. All right, item 16, a report, update on unification.
Okay, so I want to thank, first of all, Trustee Jenkins for having had the opportunity to touch base with the superintendent for the Paris High School District in order to establish an informal meeting, and I believe that was successful, and we should be meeting very shortly.
Okay, thank you. All right, a report, an update on, is there any questions about the unification while we're on that from anybody? Okay, let's have a report update on transportation.
Okay, thank you. I thought I would start with the first update or report on transportation with going back to provide you with some historical data and let you know that in 2016-17 we were under contract with another provider for transportation services. At that time, in our general ed population, we transported 1,319 students at a cost of almost $1.3 million. So the cost per general ed student was $1,546 in that school year. We were transporting approximately 132 special education students And they were able to, some of them were able to be dispersed on the Gen Ed buses, so it wasn't all special ed routes. Now that we are transporting all special ed routes, we continue to transport about 133 students. The cost has gone down. We are not budgeted at almost $2 million, but we are over $1 million. It is 1.4 million is our estimated expense in this school year. The deficit has gone down by almost $2 million since we eliminated our general education transportation. And so if we were to estimate, and have not done that, our enrollment has grown significantly since 16-17. If we were to estimate the cost of transporting our Gen Ed students, I would continue to estimate that to be at least $1,500 or greater per student.
Per year.
Per year. And I would say we don't have the fleet right now to be able to support that. So there would be a cost if we wanted to look into expanding our fleet.
How much was it monthly for families before to pay?
I was not able to determine how much we charged. So all of the data and all of the software that we had when we ran our program internally, we don't have it anymore. And so I was able just to go back and pull some historical data, but I don't know how much we charged.
You could probably find out by asking some of the parents.
I could probably do that.
Mr. Jenkins?
So we're looking at about 166 and change per student, then on a monthly basis over 9 months, if we were to do that. If you broke it down annually, maybe a little bit more. And then we have a capital expenditure as far as in the buses and things like that that we'd have to look at too, that we don't know right now, right? The capital expenditure to get up to speed.
That's correct. And then of course we would have to make additional investments in our yard. So our yard, you know, we know that we need an investment in our CNG tanks. We would need to look at investing in our larger buses. We're having a difficult time currently. We have a great staff for our routes. We're having an incredibly difficult time securing substitute drivers. We have none right now. And we continue to work with human resources, and we're struggling in that regard. It's not unique, so we knew to our district. We know that there is a high demand in the area for drivers at this point in time.
So part of it, so we have to do yard. The base capital expenditure is going to be the whole program as a whole just to get it up and running. So that number we need, and then we're looking at to maintain at least $166 to probably $175 per child on a 9-month basis.
At least, I would say at least. Those are dollars from 2016-17.
That was Gen Ed too. That wasn't special.
That was just Gen Ed.
That's what I'm on using
Right.
too as a calculation.
And one of the things that we need to be cognizant of as well is with general ed population, if there are students that are income qualified, then we don't charge them as well. So if we have students that wish to ride the bus that qualify based on income, we would not be charging them.
So those that are income qualified, are there grants to cover that or not, or other funds or anything like that along those lines that are offered by the state, county groups?
No, not by the state county groups. We could look
That's-
at using a portion of our Title I funds for that. I know that at some of our school sites we have been using some of our Title I funds for that, but certainly not enough to cover the whole entire district. And Title I funds are specific to students and specific to school sites.
And that would only cover some, so in reality then the students, the families that didn't qualify, they would have to make up.
That's correct.
Some of that would increase the cost and such. So, all right, thank you. It's a good start.
You would be pulling Title I funding, what are you currently using Title I funding for? Be pulling it from somewhere else?
Title I funding currently goes directly to students. So programs we're able to purchase, curriculum. That's how we fund the Parent Engagement Center. That's how we fund our translators. That's how we fund reading supplemental programs. It goes on and on. I am paying for a lot of our counselors through Title I.
Okay. Ms. Porth, I'm
Counselor counselors for elementary, let me qualify, because in middle school, counselors are required on the staffing, but in elementary, it's not required, so it's supplemental. Title I by definition is supplemental, not supplanting. And so I'm paying for most of our elementary counselors through Title I.
We're paying for most of them, not just part of.
Correct. Elementary.
When I talked to you about this earlier, what was the $10,000 number that we were talking about?
So,
I think I got confused somewhere in here.
and it could have been me that was confusing, and I apologize. So I'm gonna pull up my spreadsheet if you don't mind. So the cost per student, the current cost factor that we have with this budget, which of course included purchasing buses for this school year, is about $10,000 per student. And so obviously you get a little bit better cost per student whenever we can increase our participation in ridership. I would like to also share with you, whenever we did collect fees, we did collect revenue, while I might not be able to tell you the cost per student, in 2010-11, it was the time in which we had the highest source of other revenue. It was $194,542. The state revenue that we receive does not change. It remains $138,150. This program does run at a deficit. It is an encroachment program. So what that means is it takes away from the general fund dollars. I cannot use supplemental funds. I cannot use most of the categoricals. It's a very small percentage that we could possibly use for Title I. It is all that comes out of that LCFF base amount that we get.
So the $10,000 was saying to transport the students this year,
This year.
and that's because we had it by bus.
Inclusive of, yeah, so it's inflated, it's this year's budget, but it is inflated because we have had some purchases of buses.
One last question is, I'd just be interested to see, so this is a good start, and I appreciate the information. It'd be interesting, this is good stuff to take at least back to the folks, the parents, things along those lines, because some of them may be willing to pay $200 some odd dollars a month if they could, triple that, and they're, less for anything they're having to pay for drivers or for daycare, or if they're able to go to work for that much longer or something along those lines, it may be a net gain for them. So it's something to look at and be able to consider even along those lines of costs back to just the public itself until we're able to maybe figure something else out. But I guess my big question is now, what is our initial capital expenditure as far as yard and vehicles and staffing?
So what I would like to do is bring back the same consultant that could take a look at that for us, bring in a contract for the board to approve, and then we can start to look at some real hard, fast numbers and get some good estimates out there based on their experience and expertise.
Okay, thank you.
The numbers that you have here are based upon the ridership that we had before, though, right? For however many miles it was away, was it like a 2-mile thing? Was it a 3-mile? Do we have record of that?
We do, and we explored different options with him. It was about 2.5 miles away, and we explored as the crow flies, as well as direct walk path. And so as costs went up, we of course looked at as a crow.
Expanding the mileage.
We did.
All right, well, thank you. I do appreciate it, as Mr. Jenkins said, we appreciate the start, and appreciate a little more information, but it's a good place to start. So thank you. All right. Item 18, reports from board members. I'll start on this end, we'll end with Mr. O'Donnell today. The only thing really is that we did have our board self-evaluation, and I appreciate the board. I appreciate the honesty. I appreciate how and for those who came, appreciate that as well. Couldn't have been that excited to come, but you guys are awesome. Thanks for being there. And I appreciate that, and I appreciate the goals that we set, the addition, the change. I feel like there was some good, positive work that was done there. So I appreciate you all being here, and I appreciate your work. Mrs. Johansson.
I got to go as a parent to South Shore's PTA dance, and I appreciate all the PTA parents that are out there working so hard to make the school amazing. I got to go to Tooele and to Ridgemore, and I got to visit a lot of classrooms and see some awesome teachers doing amazing things and interacting with their students a great deal. And I probably went to 10 or more classes at each of those schools, and I enjoyed doing that. I did get to go this last week, but this was outside of Menifee, but just educationally as we look towards the prospect of unifying. I got to go to a conference for the state that was put on, it was held in Riverside on dual enrollment and getting those programs set up so that your students can take in high school courses that will be A to G certified like the high school, making sure it's transferable, but not only that, but to the UC system that it's IGETC, meaning that it will go to a UC. It'll transfer directly to a CSU or UC. And how to set up those MOUs and agreements to make that happen. So I enjoyed that multi-day conference, and I got to visit lots of schools.
Very good. Mr. Jenkins.
So over the past month, getting a good start off to the year, it appears. Also was able to attend the equity conference, so thank you, Keisha, also Ms. Monfori for being there. Very eye-opening, very interesting. A lot of different things, some of the different things that had going on, so it was a pleasure to get to hear from you too, so thank you for being there. So it'll be interesting to see how we implement some of those things here at the district level, and that still would like to see some groups that we're forming at especially the middle schools and things along those lines, to see how they implement it and how they do. But was appreciative, and so I'm glad that we were able to go there. I had the ability also, Paloma, to try to work with Paris a little bit more, and they invited us over to their new dedication that they were doing for one of their new buildings. I know that Mr. O'Donnell was with us and Dr. Kennedy, so I thank you guys also for being there. Interesting to be able to talk to the mayor, some of the folks from Paloma, and to enjoy the football game. That was always good. If you guys get an opportunity, support the local sports and such. Get out to some of our sporting games out there. They're always a lot of fun. A shout out to Mr. Mitchell. I know he's not here, but if you would let him know that I greatly appreciate him inviting me to more along Jackie's wheelhouse, but to his STEM competition, I guess you could say, where they made their cars out of recycled 2-liter Coke bottles. Well, soda bottles, not just Coke, and CDs. I didn't even know CDs were still around. I thought everyone chucked them as wheels, and they made cars out of these and rubber bands. It was really interesting, and they had a competition for the students, and I actually got to participate. I lost, so I also want to talk to Mr. Mitchell about that. But I'll let that one slide this time. But it was awesome to see the kids very much engaged. They were having a blast, and then he was using science. So I know that it's not just him. I know our teachers across the district are doing that, and it's just awesome to see them engage with the students and having a lot of fun, and I appreciate being invited to that. Lastly, also, I want to give a shout out to also the cabinet for just being responsive to the things you guys are doing, from major issues that have come up and just being responsive to also things as simple as a water refill station at Menifee Valley Middle School. If we can please make sure we get that going, because that's still one of those things that's out there. But and as always, thank you teachers for everything you do. We do appreciate it. Thank you staff for being here and what you do, and thank you parents, especially those that repeatedly show up here. It's greatly appreciated to see your involvement, and so thank you for everything that you do. That's my
Mr. O'Donnell.
Thank you. We have a couple things that went on this past couple weeks. I was able to attend a coffee with the superintendent. We have a coffee with the superintendent 7 or 8 occasions throughout the year. And Betty Cagnes coordinates it with Dr. Kennedy. And the two I attended was with the senior area, the coordinating council. And you know, working with the seniors is so important because they help us in so many different ways to support our schools, especially when we try to pass a bond measure, which we did a few years ago. And the coordinating council, they also said, how can we get more involved in the schools? So I think we're going to be looking at to see how we can bring some of our seniors in to volunteer in our schools, hopefully. We also had a coffee with the superintendent with our PTA and PTSA, and this was here at the deck. And here again, this was an outreach to the PTA and the PTSA to let them know where we're going as a school district and what's happening with unification. Dr. Kennedy was able to give them a really good update, and also what's happening with our special education and all the things that are happening out in our schools. It was very well attended, and this was good for us. On last Wednesday, I was out at the bus barn and also out the maintenance yard at 5:30 in the morning, and I wanted to visit with our bus personnel. The majority of our bus personnel have returned to us. They worked for us a few years ago. As I was walking up at 5:30 up the pathway, they came running out of their buses to greet me. They said, "It's so great for you to be here." I said, "It's so great to have you back." So that was good. Then I went over to the maintenance yard and met with Kevin and the managers over there and the personnel. They don't get a lot of exposure from us. So this was a good opportunity, and I have done this for years. I'll go out and ride the buses. So I usually spend one day of the year where I go out and just go on the bus with the students and a bus driver, just to let them know that we really appreciate the support that they give us. Those bus drivers know every one of those students' names. It's just wonderful what we see. I've also attended a 9/11 training that was put on. Kyle Ruda, one of our board members who's a fire captain, worked with one of the commanders from Paris to come out and give some training to our principals and assistant principals, our cabinet, our superintendent. And they really gave us some real good information. One thing I thought was really good, and that was, if we have a student that is going through a situation where they're hurt, or there's a heart attack of a teacher, or there's something going down where we have to call 911, he said, you need to make sure that someone gets on the cell phone right when that student is having the situation. Sometimes what we'll do is, maybe as a teacher, call up to the office and have them call 911. Well, if you're not with the actual student or person who's going through the seizure or whatever it may be, they can't get good information. So I thought that was very valuable, and they also said that they would help us with our AEDs that we're going to be having placed in our schools. So we're really building relationships. The other thing is, I went to the State of the City that was held this past week with the mayor and the chamber. And they talked about all the changes that we all are seeing in our community, the new businesses that are coming, talked about the roads and the overpasses that are being worked on. But there was a special segment talking about our schools that Dr. Kennedy did a video so that he could talk and brag about what's going on in our schools. So that was great. There was over 300 people that was at the Menifee Valley Country Club. They also talked about the population. They're saying that within the next 2 to 3 years, we're going to see over 106,000 people living in this community. Right now, they're predicting for 2020 that we're going to have 100,000 here in Menifee. And if you ride our roads, you can see where the people are coming. And if you look around all the homes that are being built, as Trustee Kenyon said about, we went out to the dedication for the high school. You know, we really need to build our relationship with our high school. Our students are the students that we prepare to go into their high schools. And we're really going to attempt to renew a relationship, because I don't see unification happening unless we get a relationship working together. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. O'Donnell. All right, we are on to item number 21, adjourn. It is recommended the governing board adjourn. Do I have something?
Yeah.
Oh, do we want to hear from
Someone wants dinner, I think.
I am so sorry. That's mistake number 33, I think, tonight. All right. So let's go to item 19 instead. Report from the superintendent.
I will make it very quick, I promise. So I want to thank South Shore for your presentation today. I thought it was phenomenal. I really appreciate the focus on data in order to help determine decisions. I think it's huge, it's super important, and it's obvious to us that there's a really positive culture at the South Shore Elementary School, so thank you very much for that. I wanted to reinforce the notion that safety has long been something that the Menifee Union School District has focused upon. We have had individuals that were affiliated with the Federal Bureau of Investigation, and some of our trainers have been at the top levels of the whole notion of safety, and so we're going to continue with that, working with law enforcement. I wanted to reiterate what Mr. O'Donnell and Trustee Jenkins spoke about. We had Battalion Chief Schneider, and what his role is, he works at 911. He's the head of all of the dispatch. And so it was direct from his lips that he said, one of the things we need to do that's a little bit different is we need to have our teachers carry their cell phones so that they call directly, because the information that they need to get it's time sensitive, and that will adjust what they send in order to help the person that's down. I want to thank the folks that went to our equity conference. We had a couple of parents that went, and also Mr. Jenkins, thank you, sir, for going. And we had a number of staff, and I would love to see that rotate through so that other schools have the opportunity to send teams of people. It's powerful, and the bottom line is they want teachers and people that are in front of kids to engender trust, so that, and maybe even share their own story, so that it allows that relationship to flourish. And that's all I will say, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Coney. I apologize. All right. Now we'll go on to item 21, adjourn. It is recommended the governing board adjourn at 6:08 p.m. Do I have a motion?
I'll give you a motion.
Mrs. Johansson, and a second.
I'll second.
Mr. Jenkins, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much. Our next, I guess we're out. There we go. Next regular meeting of the governing board is Tuesday, October 8th, 2019. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.